Of course, there was no recording. It was a live performance. But if you want to live in Russia, you never say no to Stalin. And so um, the the head of the radio told Stalin, okay, we'll hand this over to you. And so what they did is they convinced Maria Yudina to replay the concert along with the orchestra. Um, the the director of the orchestra had left, and they actually found a replacement to do it because the original director could not be found. So they got another director out of bed in the middle of the night and had him conduct Mozart's Piano Concerto Number 23. They filled empty seats with passersby on the street to make sure that the sound quality was exactly the same or as close as possible. And they sent it a recording to Stalin, and he never found out that it was a duplicate, not the original. Of course, Maria Yudina fiercely disliked Stalin and only agreed to redo the concert, recognizing that if she didn't, she endangered the lives of everyone in the building. And so she felt that she had to, and so she played it. But in an act of defiance, because her family had already been taken by the secret police, she felt she had nothing to lose. And so in an act of defiance, she wrote a letter to Stalin and put it with the record. And the letter basically thanked Stalin for the donation he had given her, and as he had given her 20,000 Russian currency, and she had donated it to the church, and she thanked him for the donation, and said that I pray that God will be merciful when you die, which is an intense thing to say to Stalin, and could have easily been grounds for her to be tortured and executed, and probably worse. However, she was his favorite artist. He absolutely adored her, and pretty much because of that, nothing happened to her. She was very lucky. Stalin's death was pretty emblematic of his life. It was filled with fear and paranoia. He went into his office and told his staff that he did not want to be disturbed. While in his office, he had a stroke that night. His guards heard him, but didn't check on him or say anything because they were afraid. They followed his orders strictly and refused to go inside. They didn't want to disturb him for anything, even though they heard commotion and like a ruckus, like something wasn't right. Even later, his central committee, the people directly under him, refused to get a doctor for him because they feared that it would look like an act of treason. A few years earlier, Stalin had purged much of Russia of its best doctors, as he saw doctors as a Jewish profession, and he was extremely anti-Semitic. He feared that they were trying to overthrow him, and so he preeminently tried to get rid of all the Jewish doctors so that they couldn't poison him. And so the Central Committee feared that if they got him a doctor and the doctor helped Stalin survive his stroke, that they would be, tried for treason because they got a doctor, assumed Jewish, to help Stalin. And so this, coupled with the few days until someone was brave enough to find Stalin in his office after the stroke, plus more time to finally get a doctor, meant that Stalin had no chance of living, and he did die from his stroke. He was basically a cult leader, and so mass crowds came to see him. 500 people were trampled in the rush to see Stalin's body. And everyone wanted to see him. He was feared, loved, hated, adored, and really just a historical figure that the world should never forget, so that we never let someone like him be in charge again.